If you watch the news, you probably think the tension between the US and Iran is about politicians, nuclear deals, or Donald Trump. But you've been lied to. The real reason the United States cannot leave Iran alone comes down to this exact piece of geography and a trillion-dollar choke point that controls the survival of the modern world. Today, on Borders and Power, we are going to look at the hidden map of the Middle East and discover why the next global conflict won't be fought over ideologies, but over a tiny, dangerous strip of water. And why, for any American president, containing Iran is not a choice. It is a matter of survival. To understand the chess game between Washington and Tehran, you first need to look at the board. Iran is a natural fortress. Unlike Iraq, which is mostly flat and easy for tanks to cross, Iran is surrounded by the Zagros Mountains to the west and the Alborz Mountains to the north. These form a massive natural wall around the country. American military strategists know that a ground invasion of Iran would be a logistical nightmare, far worse than Afghanistan. That is why, for decades, the United States has avoided a direct confrontation on Iranian soil. But if Iran is so difficult to invade, why do the Americans care so much about it? The answer lies in the water, more specifically, in the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz is the most important waterway on the planet. Every single day, approximately 20 million barrels of oil pass through this channel. That is roughly 20% of all the oil consumed in the entire world. And the most terrifying part for the West? Iran controls the entire northern coast of this strait. The channel is so narrow that ships are forced to pass right alongside Iranian territorial waters. Iran knows it does not need to defeat the American military in a conventional war. All they need to do is sink a few ships or scatter naval mines across this strait. If the Strait of Hormuz is closed, the price of gasoline worldwide would skyrocket overnight. China, which buys nearly 40% of all the oil that passes through there, would see its economy grind to a halt. Global inflation would explode. Iran holds the power to bring the entire world to its knees. And this is exactly where Donald Trump's strategy enters the picture. Trump's strategy was never to invade Iran. The strategy has always been financial strangulation. The maximum pressure policy aims to cut off Iran's primary source of income, the sale of its own oil. In 2025, the Trump administration imposed severe sanctions on Iran's international oil network, targeting even ports in China that were secretly buying Iranian oil. The goal is simple: leave Iran too weak, too poor, and too isolated to even think about closing the Strait of Hormuz or developing a nuclear weapon. Iran uses its nuclear program and its threats to the strait as its only bargaining chips. Trump recently declared that Iran has, quote, no cards to play in negotiations, and that they will never have a nuclear bomb under his watch. It is a geopolitical game of chicken with the highest stakes in the world. On the global chessboard, pawns believe wars are fought over ideology. But the kings know it has always been about geography, resources, and power. Iran has geography on its side, but the United States has the military and economic power to surround the fortress. The Strait of Hormuz remains the Achilles heel of the world economy. And as long as the world depends on oil, the United States will never be able to take its eyes off Iran. The next time you see news about tensions in the Middle East, do not look at the politicians. Look at the map. If you want to understand the real forces that move our world, subscribe to Borders and Power. We decode the map to see you in the next mini documentary. But here is where the story gets even more interesting. Because while the United States is trying to strangle Iran with sanctions, China is quietly doing the exact opposite. Think about this for a second. Every barrel of oil that Iran sells to China is a barrel that escapes American control. Every dollar that flows from Beijing to Tehran is a dollar that keeps Iran's economy alive, despite everything Washington tries to do. In 2023 alone, China imported over 1.5 million barrels of Iranian oil per day. That is more than 90% of Iran's total oil exports. China is not just Iran's biggest customer. China is Iran's economic lifeline. And here is the part that drives American strategists absolutely crazy. China pays for this oil not in US dollars, but in Chinese yuan. This is a direct attack on something called the Petrodollar system, the agreement that has kept the US dollar as the world's reserve currency since 1974. If oil stops being traded in dollars, the United States loses one of its most powerful economic weapons. So when Trump puts maximum pressure on Iran, he is not just fighting Iran. He is fighting China's access to cheap energy. He is fighting China's plan to replace the dollar with the yuan. He is fighting for the future of American economic dominance itself. The Strait of Hormuz is not just a waterway. It is the front line of a much bigger war. A war between the old world order, led by the United States, and a new world order being built by China, one oil barrel at a time. And that is why this tiny strait, only 33 kilometers wide at its narrowest point, keeps every president, every general, and every oil trader on the planet awake at night. Don't watch the politicians. Watch the map. And if you want to understand how China is using oil, trade, and geography to challenge American power around the world, make sure you subscribe to Borders and Power, because that story is coming next. The world you see on the news is just the surface. Beneath every headline, every speech, every war, there is a map. And on that map, there are borders. And behind those borders, there is power. This is what Borders and Power is about. Every week, we pull back the curtain on the hidden forces that shape our world. If this video made you see the world differently, you are in the right place. Hit subscribe.